So yeah, chainsaw. Zoom, bing, zoom. Stay tuned. Hello YouTube, I am Random Horror Ross. So, before we get to stuff, my shelves are gone, my boxes are gone because next week, mailman there, I'm redecorating and stuff. Alright, so let's get to horror talk. So, if you've seen the introduction, this is the franchise we're going to talk about. So, before we get started, yes, this was based on true events of a real-life nutter named Ed Gein. He was not committed as a serial killer because he only killed 2 people. The rest of the graves he robbed and made human furniture out of. This has not only inspired the franchise that I'm about to talk about, but also characters such as Buffalo Bill and Ed Gein. Okay, so let's go. In 1973, a horror film was being made and was released in 1974. This film started so much controversy and was seen as so violent it got banned. That, of course, is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Now, yes, it was quite a grisly film, but yes, it was all about like these groups of young hippies, on a road trip. Next thing you know, they unfortunately get caught up with this cannibalistic family, and shit gets real when the family starts to pick them off one by one. That family is the Sawyers and their inbred Leatherface, otherwise known as Ted Jackson Sawyer. So yeah, this film, it wasn't as gory as it sounds. In fact, there was a lot of lack of gore in the film because most of it was just after effects, like a bench made of human bones and stuff. And yes, there was a horrific scene, of course, where one of the girls gets hooked up onto a meat hook whilst he butchers her boyfriend with the chainsaw. So this film, it got banned because of its violence and how it was based on a true story. But when it got banned, it's like the director, Tobe Hooper, thought, I've struck gold here, because he did. And of course it became a cult hit. But with the film being banned for its violence and stuff, it was 12 years before a sequel was considered. That sequel was the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 in 1986. This time toned down a bit and passed off as a bit of a comedy horror. And of course, in my opinion, Texas Chainsaw 2 is my favourite one. It's definitely one of the best horror sequels out there. So, yeah, Texas Chainsaw 2. All reprised their roles except for Gunnar Henson, who didn't play Leatherface in the sequel. But still, it was a good one, and I did enjoy it a lot. It also had other actors in it, such as Dennis Hopper in the film. And of course, it was seen as humorous, and it wasn't that long before a third instalment was made. That third instalment, of course, was Leatherface, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3. Also seen as a comic horror, it had a lot of new cast members and family in that, as the family from the second one sort of got killed on that. Spoiler alert. But still, Leatherface came back, because come on, he's like the face of the franchise. So yeah, he was back again with his big signature chainsaw and stuff. And of course, after that, no one heard from the series. After 1989, when the third one came out, it was a couple more years, 1994, which was probably one of the worst films in the franchise. Definitely not the most awful. So, the fourth one was called the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, The Next Generation, with Matthew McConaughey, a young Matthew McConaughey, before Dazed and Confused, and not so well known Renee Zellweger. Of course, This film was seen as the worst installment because of its lunacy and how Leatherface was gender confused. I know, it's insane. But however, the film didn't do well at all, and this was the last film that featured in the original franchise. So, that was it. And no one heard from the franchise again until 2003. Yes. So yeah, in 2003 the series was rebooted with a new family name. Why the hell did they rename the Sawyers the Hewitts? And why was Leatherface renamed Tommy Lee Hewitt? It didn't make sense to me. Why change the whole family name? I mean, apart from Leatherface's image, he looks badass in it, but in the reboot, he was sort of seen as like the family attack dog. Like whenever the teens were, dozing about, pissing around and stuff, like the legless pops just stamped his stick on the ground for Leatherface to come up. They also had that bloke from Full Metal Jacket who was insane. It was in the insane sheriff and stuff. They were still a cannibalistic family. But yeah, and also it had starred Jessica Biel. Now, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake, apart from that, it's not the worst remake I've ever seen. It's quite a decent remake. The only thing I can fault with it is just them changing the whole family and the family name and stuff. But after that, it was 3 years before they made another installment. The remake didn't get a sequel, but it did, however, get a prequel titled The Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Beginning, which basically took place 4 years before the remake and tied a few loose ends why he wore faces and stuff. But yeah, that's all it was, just a prequel to that one. I've seen that about twice, but there's not really much more for me to say on that one. So yeah. But then in 2013, 2013, a 3D film came out called Texas Chainsaw 3D, and that was just awful. It was the opening scene took directly off from where the original ended, and then we got to like 20 years later or something, because apparently there was more in the house with the redneck family, the Sawyers, and one of the vigilantes who took matters into their own hands took the baby, raised her, and then next thing you know, she's like in her late teens or something, and she's inherited this fortune from her grandmother she never knew she had. And also, she's related to Leatherface, who's like a third generation, called Jebediah Sawyer, not Ted Sawyer like in the original. But anyway, the Texas Chainsaw 3D, I just didn't like it. I'll be honest, I didn't like it. The timeline didn't make sense. Why would you have an iPhone that does live streaming in the 90s? Why? Why? But yeah, the reboots and that, the first remake's okay, the prequel's also decent, but Texas Chainsaw 3D, just, no, it was an unnecessary one. So, yeah. But now, in early 2016 this year, or was it late 2015, another film was announced, called Leatherface, and from what I can gather, it is going to be a prequel to the 1974 classic. I think Leatherface is going to be like a teenager in it or something. I'm not 100% sure yet. Very little is released on the film. Very little intel and that. So I'm not sure how that's going to play out. I hope it's good. I hope it's a decent film, but I don't know. And I don't know when it's out. It was meant to come out later this year. Maybe early next year. I have no idea. But yeah, I'm just hoping that it does come out. I know I keep saying but yeah, I do. Leatherface, however, he was inspired by Ed Gein. He wore people's faces as leather. If you've seen the franchise, you know what he does. He wears people's faces, cuts them up with chainsaws, hangs them on meat hooks, cannibalizes. You get the picture. So yes, this has been Horror Talk, and this has been my Horror Talk on the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise. So, which Texas Chainsaw Massacre film is your favourite? Mine is Texas Chainsaw 2, followed by Texas Chainsaw 1. But what's yours? Let me know down in the comments. Also, if you haven't subscribed to my channel already, then please do. All my social media links are down below in the description. So yeah, till next time, I bid you all a goodbye friends, goodbye, and don't have nightmares. Do not forget to click down below to subscribe to the official Random Horror YouTube channel, yeah?